As always, I want to be honest with you. I don't know how many more videos I can film about Portugal without actually being in Portugal. So thinking about today's subject, I was remembering a problem that we had just before signing the contract. It is a legal issue, so I don't know how many of you would be interested, but I promise you it's quite a fun story. And if you want to buy a resort, for sure you will have this problem too. So we are in 2019 in December. We flew especially in Algarve, staying in this marvelous, beautiful Airbnb, which was our last Airbnb before we bought the house. Of course that we made all the verification, all the preparation. We asked so many times to the bank, we ask our lawyer, we ask everyone if we are missing something, if we have to bring more papers, if everything was ready for the signing. The signing was put on the 13th of December. I know that for many this may seem odd, but for us the 13 is quite a lucky number because my partner was born on the 13th. This date was also a very good choice because we were to go back to Romania to spend the Christmas in Romania on the next day, the next morning. We didn't choose the plane tickets like this, but initially the signing was put much sooner in the month and was postponed with different issues. So the last day was set finally on the 13th. So because we had so much experience with people telling us that everything is okay and was not, we went back to the bank because we had some papers to also to take from the bank which were not related to the credit issue. Just while being there casually, our officer, credit officer, just saying like by chance with the signing in the next morning that it may be an issue with the signing because the Lisbon office called. You know, if you are in Portugal and you want to do anything and you are not in Lisbon, they all call Lisbon. So she said Lisbon called, they just waiting for another document, but don't worry, it will be okay. And we of course ask, what document? No, don't worry, it's just a legal issue, it will be resolved, just be here tomorrow morning and we will proceed with the signing. At this point we didn't know exactly what this paper was. We also called of course our lawyer, and she also said that it was a problem with some legal issue, but nothing to be concerned. So she was repeating the same thing she heard from the bank, and the bank was not saying anything. Everyone was really polite and supportive, and they all said that everything is gonna be okay, but they are not saying what the issue is. They prefer to be polite and just tell you to your face that you have a problem, or they are at fault, or worse, that you are at fault. They don't even say that. If you made a mistake, they don't tell you just directly. They are just plainly avoid the issue until the issue is resolved by itself. We are not accustomed to do that. We are accustomed to tackle head on the problem, and regardless of how it sounds in the conversation, we say the things plainly because our main goal and scope is to resolve the issue, not to be polite. But the Portuguese people are very calm and polite, and we just went home and hope for the best. Fast forwarding to that day, we get up in the morning to go, we stayed in Albufeira, and to go to Lagoa. It was like 30 kilometers. We drive very slowly because I'm afraid to go in the car. I will speak about this in one of my next videos. So we knew we had to take our time. We wanted to get a coffee, you know, to make things slowly and special because, you know, you don't buy a house every day. So we got there at the bank like an hour in advance. We sit down with our office manager. Also our lawyer went to the bank, and we asked, of course, what's up with this document? Is everything okay? The document arrived? And our officer said, no, not yet. The document is not here. We don't know what to do. We will call Lisbon again. And she went back and forth in her boss's office, and everybody was making calls and speak. And even if you understand Portuguese, we didn't really hear what was said. And our lawyer was also nervous, and we asked her what is going on, and she said that she doesn't know, and we have to wait. And as we were in all this commotion, also the lawyer of the bank arrived, and he was a he, and he was so calm and staying in a corner and just politely salute us and make acquaintance with us, and then just stayed in a corner and watch constantly his phone. He wasn't doing anything, he wasn't being agitated, he was just waiting for the answer, which is the Portuguese way. And our credit officer made phone calls upon phone calls, and she was talking. At this point we had to ask, is the signing going to be today, or what is really the problem? And finally she came out of her office and said, it's a go, you are going to sign today, please proceed to the notary. The notary was 2 streets or 3 streets away from the bank. Algarve is a very small town, and so everybody started walking to the notary office. The lawyer of the bank went first in his car, I guess, and we came separately. And on the way to the notary, I was just talking to my partner that this signing is completely off, and it is not possible that in the last moment you don't know whether you are going to sign this deed or not. For the signing of the deed, we are also waiting the lawyer of the vendors. So, and up until now, we didn't see this person, the vendor's lawyer. So we will hope that we will see her at the notary. So we arrived at the notary, and at the notary was such a commotion. There was a lot of people waiting to sign their deeds. Some of them are laughing because they were happy, just got their homes or just sell their homes. We just sat in the corner on some chairs and just waited for the notary to come out and practically wait for our turn. The lawyer of the bank just sat very quietly, very calm, just with his eyes on the phone. At the moment notice, the lawyer's bank, I just can see it right now in front of my eyes, just gets up from his chair and he just walks through the door. And I asked our lawyer, what is going on? Why is he leaving? And she said he got a text from Lisbon, and the bank said no. Lisbon said no, you are not going to sign today the deed. And of course that we got quite angry and said, how is this possible? What is going on? We want to know immediately what is this document that we need and what is really the problem, and why the lawyer's bank just left and without no explanation. Is this how the things work here? And by now I think you all are so curious to find out what the issue is, but this is how we felt. Nobody was saying anything, and because we were strangers in a strange country, we didn't know how to act. If this would have happened in Romania, we wouldn't for sure have this attitude to play along until the last moment, but we did because really we didn't know how to act, and we didn't want to upset anybody, because as you know from our previous videos, we have quite a talent to upset people with our questions. So we just wanted to sit a little bit back and let the people do the work, and finally the lawyer told us what the problem was. So this legal problem has to do with the preference right that every resort has. Every resort buys a chunk of land and they construct the houses, and when somebody sells a house, they have a preference right to the land that is under the house and of course the golf course. And this in Portuguese is named direito de preferência. So what the law says in Portugal, that you have two choices. You obtain from the golf resort a letter that they state quite plainly that they renounce of their preference right, but you have to have this in writing at the day of the signing, or the vendor sends a letter announcing the resort that is selling the house, and the resort has 8 days from the moment of receiving the letter to respond that he doesn't want to be a beneficiary of this preference right. If he doesn't respond in 8 days, it is considered that he doesn't want to take advantage of this preference right. And what was happening is that our vendors, of course, chose the easy way. Actually, the lawyer of the vendors chose the easy way, and this is to send a letter to this resort, and they just decided without asking anyone, just to wait the 8 days and then we will be fine. So they treated this like a formality. The Lisbon office of the bank decided that there is some part of this legal issue that was not covered, and they said, what if the golf resort decided to send a letter in the 8th day, and the 8th day was only 1 day before our signing. This meant that if they were to send that letter wouldn't arrive in time at the lawyers. So they wanted, on top of that 8 days, to wait another 3 or 4 days to be sure that no letter was sent by post. This is in no way the legal procedure. First of all, we didn't know about this preference right. We didn't know that the golf resorts had this. Second, our lawyer didn't tell us about this because she thought that this is resolved, and the bank said that everything is okay. So the bank decided in the last moment that on top of these 8 days he needs another 3 days. And also the bank officer didn't tell us about that because, again, in Portugal nobody tells you anything, and they just think that we have to just sit back and let them do their job, and we don't need to know any specifics. But if we had known this, we would personally go to the resort and take the first option, which was the safest option and was the option that everybody should have taken, not the easy option, and to obtain in writing the fact that the resort doesn't want to exercise this preference right. In our opinion, this is what should have been done, and not go with the easy way. But nobody thinks like that in Portugal, and everybody said that he doesn't understand why we are so upset, because we can just leave a power of attorney to the lawyer, and actually nobody understood why we were even there to sign, because nobody actually comes to signing in Portugal. Everybody just sends their lawyer. So we were at the notary, very angry, just hearing about all this, and of course in our very Romanian way we decided that we are going to take this matter into our own hands. And the bank's lawyers said that if we can get this paper today until the notary closes, he is willing and supportive to our cause. He will be back. As I understand, that was a favor to us, because this is not really the normal procedure. I mean, he had a date and an hour put aside to us. If this was not to happen, we would have to make another appointment. Our lawyer tried to explain us that there is no way to obtain this letter, but we said that we want to try. We had just 3 hours, and we had to go from Lagoa to Valdolobo, and we had to find somebody, we didn't know who, at the legal department, explain our issue and convince them to sign a legal paper. Looking back on that day, we realized that our lawyer was right, and that was no way we could obtain that. But in that moment, in that commotion, we felt that we had to try. And everybody was so baffled that we made such great efforts to make this happen. They say they never saw anyone putting so much effort in something happening in a certain way. They didn't just understand why we could just let go and sign in another day. We rushed back to Valdolobo and we went to the reception. They said that the resort is managed by a firm and we have to go to the original firm who owns the land. And this is the resort hotels, and they have offices in the resort hotels. And we went to this hotel. It's a 5-star hotel. You can imagine how we looked, how we were very upset and sweaty, and in no way looking like you want to look when you enter a 5-star hotel. And we went to the reception of that hotel. We started explaining our problems, and frankly, when they heard that we want to talk to the legal advisor of the hotel, the receptionist was looking at us as we just came from another planet, and the security guard came because they were kind of scared of us a little, and they just I think, took pity of us and just make a connection to somebody, to the legal office, which was a secretary, because I don't know if I mentioned before, but it was a Friday afternoon, like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And if you are Portuguese and you are watching that, you know that this is the lunch break. And not only that is the lunch break, it's Friday, and I think nobody works so much hours in a Friday. You just get ready for the weekend. First of all, my partner did, because he's a lawyer, and I felt that he was our best chance to explain the legal situation. And that person just said, "I'm sorry, I cannot help you." When I saw that the legal language wasn't enough, I wanted to try my luck also and made another approach, the Romanian approach. I asked to the reception to call again that person, and I was to talk to her. Of course, that person was like every other person that we encounter in Portugal, very polite, but she wasn't really saying anything other than, "I'm sorry, I cannot help you." And I started talking to her like I was talking to somebody from my country. And I said, "Look, I have this problem, this legal issue. The bank, it's a fairly large corporation, and the bank doesn't care about us. You are a small and private firm. You know how the bureaucracy works in Portugal. You understand that I have no chance to speak in Lisbon with anybody and get through them, so you are my only chance." I also explained to her in plain words and simple that you don't have any legal issue if you sign this document. It's just a matter of wanting to put your signature and make this effort to help me, and please help me. And something happened then. I just sensed a shift in her disposition, in her language, in her way of approaching this. For a second, maybe just for a second, she dropped the polite attitude and she spoke to me also plainly and from the heart. Said, "Look, I understand your situation. I'm very sorry for your situation. I understand the legal implication, but even if I wanted to help you and convince someone to sign this on your behalf, the fact of the matter is that there is nobody here. It is Friday afternoon and it's nobody here. And I am telling you for sure that you can't reach anyone at this hour, because of course we said that if nobody is here, we will go where everybody is." And she said, "This is not possible. In Portugal, things don't work like that. And even if I gave you the address, it's hours away. You wouldn't be able to get there in time." And that was that. We called our lawyer. We said to her that we couldn't obtain this, and we went back to Lagoa and gave her a power of attorney that very afternoon, and she signed the deed for us later in the month, as I told you in another video. Apart from the story, I think there are a couple of things you have to take from this video. One, if you buy in a resort, there is a preference right from the owner of the resort, the one who built the actual houses, and you have to be sure that you have this piece of paper at the moment of the signing or buying of the house, or that enough days have passed in order that this preference right shouldn't be active. Take at least 15 days just to be sure. Another thing is that I discovered that if you talk to people from the heart, at some point you will get through them, and they would not act so polite all the time, talking to you very nicely but saying nothing. So if I sense that I could get through to this person and she talked to me like I'm an actual person, not a robot, I think there is hope. In the end, this is a much better form of communication, because it gets you to the point quickly. The point in a conversation is not really to be absolutely gentlemanly, British polite. It's to communicate something, to say something to a person, and or to resolve an issue. Another thing it would be that the bank said no, and when the bank said no, like computer says no, when this happens, you cannot do anything. So leave it in the comments. What do you think about this preference right? What do you think about this legal issue? If any of you bought in a resort and had this happen to you, I would like to know, and how you deal with it. Subscribe, like the video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!